Hi, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. Thank you for joining me in this new painting video. I know I said I'm not going to do a painting video for a while, but I've been missing you guys and I actually have this video on file, so I decided to do it. This is Valerie and she is a girl from Ukraine. I decided to paint her and it is an interesting photo. It is a selfie actually, so her face is a little bit distorted by the wide angle lens. So my end photo looks a little bit different from the photo because I actually want to kind of correct that into a little bit more accurate looking of her photo. I have access to her other photos, so I kind of average it out. Because whenever you have like a selfie photo, it's usually a very wide angle at a very close distance. So the face will look a little bit distorted and it looks better for some people, like faces like me. I have a really big wide face, so whenever I take a selfie photo, my face starts to look a little bit slimmer. But anyways, I want to sort of reproduce her portrait a little bit better. So I start off with a pretty much a structural drawing of her face, trying to get a structure down. And I go into the detail right now and starting to draw her features and stuff a little bit more carefully with a little bit darker mark as well. I'm trying to measure her facial proportion, make sure everything is correct. And after I'm done with that, I erase some of the construction lines to make the drawing a little bit cleaner. The drawing stage of portrait, again, is very important. I mentioned that numerous times before. We all want to get to the fun part, which is painting. But if your drawing is weak, if you don't have a good, decent drawing, it is going to show in your painting. And especially for something like a human face, since we are seeing that every day, it is very easy for people to spot an issue with your portrait. Now, some portrait can be stylized a little bit and some portrait can be a little bit different from your source material, since not everybody is going to see the original photo that I'm painting from. I'm showing you guys that in the beginning just for you to get an idea, but not everybody is going to see that. So it can be a little bit off, it can be a little bit stylized, the likeness can be off a little bit. But if the proportion is wrong, if there's something that is not quite correct, let's say the eye is not lining up correctly, it's very easy to spot and your portrait is not going to look believable. So having a good drawing is very important. And especially for portrait, there are ways to learn how to draw a human face correctly. I have a couple people asking me if I recommend any book or courses for head drawing, and I usually point them to getting a book from Andrew Loomis, which is a wonderful book he wrote and he illustrated for how to draw a human head. So I highly recommend that you can get that book. It's very easy to understand. He almost illustrates everything. So if you get a chance, definitely go check it out. I'll put the link down below so you guys can go check it out. And it's very important to learn drawing once again. And now I am doing my first wash. I want to keep the first wash really clean, so while I give it an overall wash, I try to keep the part that is in the light as clean and light as possible. Whenever I'm doing a scenery painting, I usually said the first wash is about light and atmosphere. And the same thing applies for a portrait painting. It is very important that we understand the first wash is just the light. It's just painting the color of the light as well as painting the air between you and the subject, which is the atmosphere. So the first wash is pretty much just the basic skin tone, establish the skin color and the light of it. Now the first wash is dry. I am going to start defining the feature a little bit more, what I usually call modeling and rendering as well. So I'm starting with her left eye, just to get that shadow of her eyelid in, as well as her iris and pupil, and try to connect everything as much as possible. I don't want a lot of individual different shapes. Things should fall together as a whole. Now there's different planes and different features, but in watercolor, the more you can connect, the better. We want to try to connect the shape, connect the wash. So from her eyelid and to her iris and pupil, I also extend the wash out to her eye socket, and now the side of her nose that's in the shadow that has the value. So this way we'll try to kind of incorporate everything together, and the feature will start to feel like it belongs to the face. One of the common issue I see the beginner make when they are painting portrait is that they're starting to outlining the features. They start to outline the nose, the eyes, the ear, and it's starting to feel like they're drawing the portrait instead of really painting it and let the paint do the work. Instead of defining the different planes and the form of the facial features, it's like they're trying to outline them, to define them. And that's due to lack of understanding of the human's face proportion and structures, their anatomies. And while I'm not the master of facial muscle anatomies, I do understand the basic plane, how it works, and especially how it works under the light. So I am able to define the form with light and shadow, with different brushstroke. And that is very important to really study on that if you are passionate about painting portrait. If you are trying to outline the features, it will start to look cartoonish. And there's nothing wrong painting cartoon or anime character. But if you want to paint a believable portrait, you need to spend some time and understand the facial structure of the face and start to define the form by using different values and brushstroke and things like that. So I'm painting the nose. Nose is quite important in the portrait because it's the part that extruded out the most. So I'm really trying to define the form of her nose by giving some values on the side and on the bottom, and keep the tip of the nose with a little bit of highlight. And it's very important to understand how that works and define that, because you're painting a three-dimensional scene from a two-dimensional surface. So light and shadow and the color and the value will all play a big role to make this form popping out from a two-dimensional space. And here I'm sculpting her lips. So the upper lip is under the shadow, so it's a little bit darker, and the bottom lip, it received a little bit of light, and the top part and the underneath is casting a little bit of shadow. Again, everything is form. It's defining by light and shadow. It is not outlining. I'm not outlining the lips, right? I have a little bit dark value on the corner of her lips because it's darker. And that's about it. So everything that I do is really trying to bring out the form. And if you look at the shadow on her right, which is our left, and you're gonna see that this interesting shadow that's following her cheek. That is actually the shadow casting by her hair. I'm painting this right now because I'm painting her face, but when I paint the hair in, things starting to make sense. So I like this portrait quite a bit myself because I think I was able to keep the portrait overall very clean and transparent, and with minimum amount of fiddling. I didn't paint with a lot of layers, and I think that is very important, especially for a human face. If you paint too many layers, the painting will start to look dirty and muddy, and you starting to dull the color down. So the less layer you can paint, the more translucent and beautiful and clean it will look. And if you think about it, human skin is kind of translucent, especially like places like ears and maybe between the hand. If you put your hand against a very light source like the sun, you will see a little bit of translucency on your skin. So in a way, watercolor is a very natural medium to paint human skin. And even though a lot of portraits are done in oil and looks rich and it's really bright and contrast, but I feel watercolor always has this wonderful quality to it that you can show the skin, skin feels water and translucent. It's just a very interesting feel and quality to it when you are painting a portrait of human skin with watercolor, and some artists are able to do it so well. It just feels so real and is just amazing to look at. And watercolor also has the ability to make very super soft edge, and the color just blend seamlessly together as well. So it's a very interesting medium to use when it comes to portrait. It's definitely not the easiest, but if you are able to done well, just magical things can happen. I feel like I'm rambling a lot because I'm just really enjoying painting this portrait myself. As you can see, I had a lot of fun playing with different edges wet onto wet as I'm painting her hair. And things are coming together quite well. I was really happy on that stage. So if you watched my last video, you know that I'm taking a pause on YouTube. It's mainly because I want to update my online course. I am pretty much re-recording almost all of the lessons in my online course. And I'm really happy that I do that because I'm able to explain things a lot better, and I'm able to design the lessons and the exercise a lot better for you to learn if you haven't been on my online course before. And if you are my current student who already purchased online course, again, all the update will be available for you for free. You will be able to go through the course again, and hopefully this will help you even more. I had a lot of great feedback from my previous course and a lot of people loving it, but again, I want to make it as good as possible. As I grow as an artist and as a teacher, I want this course to grow with me. Now, while I don't know if I'm going to do this total revamp again in the near future, but I definitely, one of the promise I made to you and made to my student is that this course is not going to remain this 5-10 years from now. I'm always going to keep it updated as I learn more and as I work with the student more, so I know what people need in order to just to learn watercolor in the best way possible. So if you haven't got my course but is interested, be sure to sign up on my website to get notification and update. When the course is ready, I will let you guys know immediately. So this portrait is pretty much done. I finished her face and her hair, and I'm just giving a little bit of form on her white t-shirt. She's wearing white, so there's not a lot of information that I can work off with, and which is totally fine. That her clothes is not the main focus of the portrait anyways. So just a little bit suggestion that she is wearing something, there's a solid body, and that will do. I actually really like that this portrait is mostly white in the background and her clothes as well. It just shows more light is feeling on her face. Again, this is one of my favorite portrait painting, and even though it's painted last year, it is still one of my best portraits, I feel, just because how clean and how simplistic I'm able to make it. So it is very interesting to paint portrait in watercolor because when you paint something, you're pretty much done and you're not able to go back and fix it. Unlike oil, I can just paint it over and over and until I'm happy with. Watercolor is certainly different. So I'm really happy with painting and I hope you like it too. Here is the finished painting. Thank you so much for joining me in this painting video. Again, I'm still taking a pause on YouTube, but hopefully I'll be able to start doing some live stream pretty quickly. Thank you, and I will see you guys very soon, and I hope you're looking forward to the update of my course.